From the capital city of Charleston, West Virginia, this is Inside West Virginia Politics with Mark Curtis. Inside West Virginia Politics is brought to you by AARP West Virginia, your ally for real possibilities in the Mountain State. And by Williamson Health and Wellness Center, working to open doors to broader health care in southern West Virginia and eastern Kentucky. Now, Inside West Virginia Politics.
Well, happy weekend, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Inside West Virginia Politics. I'm your host, Mark Curtis. The gentleman to my right is Mike Pushkin, delegate from Kanawha County and state chair of the Democratic Party of West Virginia.
Hey,
great to have you on the program.
It's great to be back on. Thanks for having me.
Lots going on. You're very welcome. Lots going on.
Kind of a slow news week.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. This past Monday, the West Virginia delegation of the West Virginia delegates going to the National Convention in Chicago in August voted unanimously to back Kamala Harris. Why?
Well, you know, we had a meeting on Monday night, and after a healthy discussion, we definitely had everybody's voices heard, and after discussing, we took a voice vote, and we decided to endorse the candidacy of Vice President Harris for the President of the United States. When we were pledged to Joe Biden, of course, when he decided to step back, the logical choice, in fact, the only choice is his vice president. Now, when we elected Joe Biden as president, we also elected a vice president. And one of the main roles of the vice president is to be able to and capable of stepping up and fulfilling the role of president if, God forbid, something would happen to the president. So she is the logical choice. You know, since then, she has broken all fundraising records. So there's an unbelievable amount of fundraising. And a statistic that really stood out to me, at this point, over 500,000 new donors to her campaign. People who have never given to a political candidate before. So the enthusiasm around her campaign right now is just palpable. And I think she is the best one to go forward to defeat Donald Trump this fall, and in my opinion, protect our democratic republic. So, like I said, we had a good, healthy discussion with our delegation to Chicago, and we joined many other states and many other officials in supporting the candidacy of Vice President Kamala Harris.
Why is it so important to have unity? She does now have enough pledged delegates from all the state delegations, including West Virginia, to put her over the top. She's got enough delegates to secure the nomination. Yeah. Why is unity important rather than a fractured, brokered convention?
Well, of course unity is important. You know, we've never seen anything like this. I mean, even when LBJ dropped out before our time, when LBJ dropped out, it was in March of that year. There was still time for a primary. It's almost August. We are going into a convention, and Democrats are going to go into that convention stronger and more united than ever behind the candidacy of Vice President Harris.
Some have called, including Senator Shelley Moore Capito, Patrick Morrissey, the Attorney General of the state, have called on Mr. Biden to resign the office and allow Kamala Harris to become President of the United States. Do you think that's a viable option, and would that give her a leg up?
I think that Senator Capito and Attorney General Morrissey are being completely ridiculous, and they know. They're playing politics. Look, the Republican Party, they don't know which way they want to go right now. Half of them are saying that the president needs to step down, and the other half are suing to keep him on the ballot. So which is it? You know, it seems like a year ago, but just about 10 days ago or so, President Biden stood up and gave an hour-long press conference, unscripted, live press conference about foreign policy at the NATO summit. I do not think you could see candidate Trump, former President Trump, get up there and answer detailed questions about foreign policy. So, of course, President Biden is able to do the job. He's been doing the job for the past 3.5 years. He's been able to pass monumental legislation like the American Rescue Plan that did more to pull this state out of the pandemic than Patrick Morrissey or Shelley Moore Capito, or who voted against it, by the way, or Jim Justice ever did. It was able to send money directly to the counties and the municipalities, so it didn't get tied up in a baby dog sweepstakes. He was able to pass the infrastructure bill. Just yesterday, we heard about an announcement of the Steubenville Market Street Bridge up in the northern Panhandle. That's a direct result of the infrastructure bill. President Trump can only talk about an infrastructure bill. And of course, the Inflation Reduction Act that has led to disproportionate investment in this state. So sure, he's been doing the job, and he can continue to do the job. But he stepped away from the campaign because he feels his choice as a vice president, a very good pick for vice president, is best suited to defeat Donald Trump and protect our democratic republic. And I'm behind her 100%.
We're down to about 40 seconds. How important was it that Joe Manchin got out of this? I mean, he was briefly mentioned for about 24 hours as a presidential candidate, and then yesterday he said no.
Well, look, I respect Senator Manchin. I value his friendship, and I think his is a voice that definitely needs to continue to be heard. But it wasn't that long ago Senator Manchin was agreeing with us and saying that former President Trump is the single greatest threat to our democracy. So I know that Senator Manchin's going to get on board and back what I call the democracy ticket.
Yeah. The chairman of the party, Mike Pushkin, also a delegate here in Kanawha County. Thanks for being here. We've heard from a Democrat. We're going to hear from a Republican coming up next. Stay with us on Inside West Virginia Politics. And we welcome you back to Inside West Virginia Politics. We've heard from a Democrat. How about a Republican? I want to introduce Larry Pack. He is a Republican National Committeeman for the Republican Party here in the state of West Virginia. Great to have you on the program. I'm jealous. You just got back from my hometown of Milwaukee. You were at the Republican National Convention. How was it?
Oh, the town was just wonderful. Such a beautiful city. The people were just so nice. We really enjoyed it, exploring the city, and at the same time, getting to go to the convention every night and every day was just a phenomenal experience for us.
What was the vibe like inside the convention center?
It was so exciting. It was so positive. It was we had people from all around the country, all walks of life, really joined together to return Donald Trump back to the White House. And I've never been to a convention, never been to any group that there was just so much unity and, again, so much happiness. So
we obviously have a regional interest in this with our neighbor J.D. Vance from Ohio, yes, nominated as the vice presidential candidate. What does he bring to the ticket? What impact do you think he'll have in our region, and in the ticket itself?
I think the hope for West Virginia, I think the hope for Appalachia, that we have somebody that really understands our area and the trials and the concerns that we have. And I think with his Eastern Kentucky background, we'll have somebody that understands, our needs. And I don't know that we've ever had that before. I think his youth as well, turning to the next generation, I think is very, very exciting to have someone, in their 40s. We've had a lot of 60-year-olds and 70-year-olds, and to have somebody at that age also to be able to communicate to the younger generations, but also to understand the younger generation. I think that's going to be very positive for our country.
We've had no shortage of headlines these past couple of weeks. Of course, President Biden announcing Sunday that he is ending his campaign for re-election. He has endorsed Kamala Harris. Your thoughts on that? Was it the right thing to do in the right time?
Well, it's definitely needed to be done. I think we've all seen, we don't need a medical degree to understand that his health is declining. We don't really have a good understanding of how far it's declined, but there's just no way that any normal person would think that he could serve another 4 years as President of the United States.
Subsequent to that, Kamala Harris has announced her candidacy. I hate to steal a line from Governor Justice, but she's kind of gone on a rocket ship ride here. In 2 days, she raised over $100 million and brought in hundreds of thousands of new donors. How does the GOP counter that?
Well, I think we just needed to report, to say exactly what she is. She is a San Francisco liberal. And if you want a San Francisco liberal, then she is your poster child for that. So if you want to shut down the fossil fuel industry, she's the one to get that done. If you want to wide open the borders, that's what she'll do. I don't think she relates to West Virginia. I think she's really bad for West Virginia. I think you'll find over time the Trump campaign will be able to prosecute a message that will show people that she is not good for the country, she's not good for the world, and I think President Trump will prevail.
What does his strategy have to be? I mean, does he go back and compare the two administrations? I mean, what does he do to say it's time to put me back in the White House? This has only happened one time in our history where a president has served 2 non-consecutive terms.
Very unusual. Yeah, we got to go back to the late 1800s. What he really, I think his best message last week, I thought was a return to common sense, the common sense values. That's something West Virginia understands. The Biden-Harris values of the last 4 years have almost destroyed our country, whether it's the Biden inflation, whether it's open borders, a weakness on the international stage. Just bringing back common sense, bringing back strength, bringing back safety. Our citizens want to be safe. Shutting down the border. We want legal immigration, but not illegal immigration. So I think just common sense things. I mean, look at this at the Secret Service last week. Kanawha County deputies would have did a much better job than our Secret Service did last week. So again, just common sense values, common sense strategies. That's what President Trump will bring back.
We're down to a minute. Do you imagine that there's going to be a down ballot effect in this race? I mean, President Trump is enormously popular here in West Virginia. Does that affect races, down ballot for the House of Delegates, state Senate, things like that, local offices?
In West Virginia, being on the ballot as a Democrat in West Virginia this November is going to be a bad night. It's hard to imagine West Virginia could elect more Republicans, but when we get down to it, there'll be 1 or 2 state senators. There'll only be probably 5 or 6 House of Delegate members. The National Democratic Party is in another world from West Virginia, and they're going to be punished this November.
All right, we're going to keep an eye on it. You, of course, are on the ballot as for state treasurer with no opponent, and at least on the Democrat side, you're the Republican nominee. We want to thank Larry Pack for joining us. WVGOP.org, WVGOP.org, the Republican National Committee for the state of West Virginia. Larry Pack, thanks for being here, Larry.
Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome. More of Inside West Virginia Politics after this break. We're going to meet a candidate for West Virginia governor. No, it's not Patrick Morrissey. No, it's not Steve Williams. I want to introduce my old friend S. Marshall Wilson, former Republican delegate turned independent delegate here in the state of West Virginia. And you are seeking this time you ran as an independent in 2020 for governor. Now you're seeking the Constitution Party nomination for governor.
Yes, sir. I'm actually already the Constitution Party's nominee, but under West Virginia state law, because I'm with a party that's not recognized by the state, I have to gather 8,000 signatures of registered voters just to have my name printed on the ballot.
You're almost there, and you have to have those by what, August 1st?
Yes, sir.
So you're facing a deadline. You're about 2,000 signatures short, but you're at the parade in Ripley on the 4th of July, and you were really working the crowd hard and getting petitions signed. Tell us, what is the Constitution Party in a nutshell?
Well, it's a national party. It's been around for about 20 years. And it's formed of people who have recognized that the way things are working is not going to work, especially people who recognize the importance of what George Washington said in his farewell address about permanent parties insinuating themselves between the people and the government they form for their own purposes. And so the Constitution Party is a bunch of citizens who got together and decided to change that. Here in West Virginia, we're not very big, but I tell you what, you get me on the ballot, and we will take off. We will make things happen here.
When you campaign at an event like the Ripley Parade, which is huge, tens of thousands of people, I'm sure you hear from people who explain why they're dissatisfied with both major parties. What do you hear from people? What are they telling you?
Well, you know what? The thing that really blows my mind is the number of people who tell me they've given up. They just don't vote anymore. Massive numbers of people, and you saw that in the primary. I'm from Berkeley County. In my county, 17% of the registered voters showed up to vote. 17%. I mean, that's insane. And yet we determined that these people who are elected are actually represent the majority. Well, the majority doesn't even vote. How can they represent the majority? So the first thing that concerns me is that people are so disgusted with the two-party system that they've decided not to engage anymore. The second thing is that I keep hearing that they're two wings of the same bird, that it's an oligarchy, that they pretend like they're fighting each other, but all they're really doing is they're hurting their membership around and using them to win their battles. But it's actually the party system against the people, because they are working together to deprive us of our natural rights and liberties.
Give me an example of an issue where you feel our state government or federal government is not following the Constitution as your party sees it. You laugh like there's a lot of them, but give us a highlight.
Well, I mean, for one thing, okay, so the Republican Party claims to be the party of life. Life is the first right that is guaranteed under our Constitution as recognized in the Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal. They're endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. All right, so we actually had a law on the books that forbade abortion. And when Roe v. Wade was overturned, instead of simply enforcing the law that we had on the books, our legislative leadership, our Republican supermajority, went to our Republican Attorney General and said, "Do you think we need a new law?" Well, no, we don't need a new law. The law is very clear. Don't kill babies. It's right there. It's in black and white. Why do we need a new law? And the Attorney General, rather than simply discussing this with the leadership, the Republican majority leadership of the legislature, what he did was he made a public statement that told everybody in the state we need a new law. So in fact, what he did was engage in the political process, the legislative process, by building a coalition behind this idea before he even discussed it with the legislature.
We're down to 30 seconds.
Yes,
Why
sir.
should people check the box for S. Marshall Wilson for governor? Constitution Party.
Because I will uphold and defend your individual natural rights if it costs me my life. I spent 20 years in the infantry doing it, and the reason that I do it is because I have 9 children, and I will do whatever it takes to ensure that my kids can raise their kids in a free country.
Well, we thank you for your military service. As you know, my daughter's
Yes,
currently
sir.
a captain in
Yes,
the U.S.
sir.
Army. Very proud of her, too. You guys have met. We want to mention, if you want to sign that petition to get him on the ballot, it's Marshall4, the number 4, Marshall4WV.com, Marshall4WV.com. We want to thank S. Marshall Wilson. Great to see you, as always. Good to see you in the parade on the 4th, and best of luck to you in the election day.
Thank you for your time, sir.
You're very welcome. More of Inside West Virginia Politics after this break. Don't go away. And welcome back to our final segment this weekend on Inside West Virginia Politics. We want to talk about a new documentary that's out. It's called Reagan, Portrait of a Presidency. It aired on News Nation, our parent network, and it's also going to be airing the next weekend, August 3rd, on WOWK-TV in Charleston. That's Saturday, August 3rd from noon to 2 p.m. It'll be on the other Nexstar TV stations as well, so check your local listings. With that in mind, I want to introduce Professor Emeritus Robert Rupp from West Virginia Wesleyan College here in West Virginia, and a presidential scholar. Rob, good to see you as always.
It's good to meet you too.
You know,
Reagan's certainly going to be is an interesting topic, and the documentary is well made.
Yeah, it really is. Reagan, Portrait of a Presidency. It reminded me, when I got done watching it, I thought, you know, Reagan had a lot of nicknames and a lot of things people called him, but one of the most established ones was they called him the Great Communicator. How did that play into the effectiveness of his presidency, that he was such a great communicator from his days as a broadcaster and an actor?
Well, he started out as a movie actor, so he was very comfortable in front of any kind of a camera. But he was also, in a sense, an ability to just that you're comfortable with on that side. He was called the jelly bean president because he had jelly beans, and the party tried to portray him as out of touch, but he was in touch. He just had that kind of comfortable, positive optimism that attracted the American public. And in many ways, what he did with the Republican Party and changing it, it lasted 2 generations, in which one person is having an amazing amount of power. And also, Mark, remember, he comes in at very troubled times, both in economy and in foreign policy. And within 4 years, he wins 49 out of 50 states in the Electoral College in the 1984 election. And he finishes with one of the highest approval ratings given for an American president.
You know, a lot of his critics, thought they portrayed him as kind of an actor and a guy that wasn't very bright, but he was a man of substance. He wasn't just a great communicator. I mean, look, he led to the end of the Cold War. He led the economic revival and renaissance in this country. That's pretty substantive stuff.
Yes, it certainly is. And I think sometimes we forget the fact that he was a 2-term governor of California. So when he came to Washington, he had government experience and he had a network of very good staff. And that explains part of the reasons why he was able to deal with problems of the economy and problems with foreign policy.
I want to take a step back in time to March 30th of 1981, a day I'll never forget, when he was a victim of an assassination attempt and nearly died. And of course, we had this tragic incident with former President Trump just last week. And, it struck me as Reagan came out of that assassination attempt so strong that he was just invincible politically. Do you think the same thing might happen with Trump, the way Trump, pumped his fist with blood on his face last Saturday? It was quite remarkable.
Well, first, in terms of Reagan, when he went in the operating table, he told a joke. He said, "I hope you're all Republicans here." And the nation was very worried, and he was in very bad shape, but yet he been positive to the end. Notice Reagan is positive, but not in a humorous way when he raises up his fist on that side. I think those are both situations where the American public, we know they rally around the flag in war. They also rally around presidents when they're in danger.
I'll never forget the second debate against Walter Mondale back in 1984. Reagan had a horrible first debate like Joe Biden just did. And Reagan came back and people questioned his age and his health, and he said, I'm not going to make an issue in this campaign of the youth and inexperience of my opponent. The entire place erupted in laughter. Even Mondale laughed, and in later years, Mondale said that's the night he knew he lost the presidency.
See how comfortable he was with power, and that he could make it humorous, and that reply just cut the bottom out of Mondale's efforts to defeat him.
Again, the documentary is Reagan, Portrait of a Presidency. It has been airing on News Nation, and it also airs on our flagship in West Virginia, WOWK, Saturday, August 3rd from noon to 2 p.m. For the other Next Star stations, just check your local listings. It's a remarkable piece of work. We want to thank Professor Emeritus Robert Rupp from West Virginia Wesleyan College, joining us today from Odin, Michigan. Rob, good to see you. God bless.
Take care.
And that'll do it for this week's edition of Inside West Virginia Politics. We'll see you back here next week.